Welcome back. You are watching Election Exchange at the election headquarters of CNBC-TV18, and we're tracking the election results in the 4 states. Mizoram, of course, goes for counting tomorrow, but it's been a thumping victory for the BJP in Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana going to the Congress party. But indeed, a very important election from an economy point of view as well. Let's get in all our guests right now. We've got Sanjay Nayar, founder of Soren Investments. He's with us. Gurmeet Chadha of Complete Circle Investments. Nilesh Shah is also with us. And Mahima Singh of the Congress Party will continue being with us. And also Richard Rosso of CSIS. Sanjay Nayar, if I can begin with you. How do you see this election results for the Indian economy? Continuity, the fact that the voters are still reposing their faith in the BJP, also bucking anti-incumbency in the states. How do you see this?
Hi, thanks for having me on the show. I think, look, first and foremost, it's extremely positive. And I think there is absolute, confidence that this government can deliver. And I think that is the most important thing here, because they have been doing a lot of work at the ground level, whether it's digitization, whether it's providing, water, food, everything. I think this in a way recognizes that stuff that's happening at the ground level is being recognized. So number one, I think with that said, there are a few things that they can really accelerate on. And frankly, from my perspective, not a political analyst, the biggest positive here is that reforms will continue, and hope they will. The fiscal prudence that they've demonstrated till today, despite all the headwinds, both geopolitically, COVID, etc., should continue. Third, I would say the infrastructure spend, very critical. And in the middle of all of that, I think they need to increase the savings rate, both on the private sector and in the public sector, because ultimately you can't keep importing savings to grow the business. So that obviously means FDI, exports, and everything else. So I think this gives them a solid set of confidence if they needed one. I don't think they needed, but if they needed one, I think there's a clear green path here for them to go and accelerate on some very simple structural issues that need to now get done. And I think it's very critical, because if you don't do it, you remain productivity challenged, you remain inflation challenged, you remain supply side short, and you always keep depending upon energy prices and the dollar rupee. So I think it's time to become truly independent by increasing domestic savings, cutting down the public disk savings, increasing the household savings, and making sure that all of that comes into the real sector. I think it's a great opportunity. It's a fantastic mandate. And if anybody had a doubt, I think that's probably gone by. And I think it also is a precursor to the fact that it rests to doubt anything about 2024. At least, as I said, I'm only a bystander. But as a common man, I think it tells you that 24 should be a breeze, but we got to utilize it.
Mr. Nayar, what I'd also like to ask you, in this election, from the trends that we're getting, it seems that people, the women, the youth, the farmers, they voted for what really matters to them on a day-to-day basis, what really improves their livelihoods. Now, what does this show about the sentiment of people in rural areas, in urban cities, what the Aam Aadmi of the country really wants from the government, from the economy, according to you?
That's to me?
Yes.
Question to me, is it? Okay. Yeah. Look, I think it's about the basic promises that this government made right 9 years ago. Deliverance at the most grassroots level. And I have been to some of the presentations, and I've seen the amount of work that has gone on at the grassroots level, okay? Again, sanitation, food security, and all of that with excellent execution, high degree of conviction, and top it up with fiscal prudence to quite an extent. We have a big fiscal deficit, but they haven't expanded it. They've managed it really well. So I think when the people, the large part of the population sees real action, real livelihood, subsidies and other things that were promised going straight into their account, no leakages. I think it means a lot. So the quality of their life, quality of security, um, you know, financial inclusion that is happening in the country thanks to digitization. I think all of this adds up a lot. So again, not talking about male, female, and caste, the guy at the grassroots level, the 60-70% people are seeing a real impact. And it's a long race. This is not a short-term thing. But in 9 years, sometimes I really feel they have done so much when I see the presentations and I read some of the reports. I think they should just continue on that with increased gusto.
Right. Let me also get in a word from Congress's Mahima Singh. Mahima, there were two surprises for the Congress party today, one pleasant, the other one unpleasant. Pleasant surprise coming in from Telangana and the unpleasant one coming in from Chhattisgarh. What do you attribute the Chhattisgarh outcome to? Because Congress was in a comfortable position there. Of course, if you factor in the allegations, the corruption allegations, but did you see that coming? Were you expecting this sort of an outcome? And also, let's talk about Telangana, where the man of the match, Revant Reddy, has been making headlines today.
Yeah, Archana, Chhattisgarh certainly is a very unexpected event that has happened today, because we were very confident. We were not only hopeful, we were very confident of the work that we have delivered there over the past 5 years. Farmers have been really happy. There are other welfare schemes that we have delivered. I think from grassroots to the top, to the industrialists, I think the Congress's popularity, the Congress's schemes were really working. Mr. Baghel's popularity, I think all the surveys were clearly showing that was way ahead of the BJP or any leader of the BJP's. So, but the public mandate has come today, and there's certainly that has gone amiss, and we must introspect, we must look into it, we must go back to our drawing board and see where, did we miss spot. So I think that will have to be seen, and that will be dutifully seen. But Telangana, as you say, Telangana, I think we have tapped into the people's interests, really, because there was major anti-incumbency, there was major voter fatigue. People were really tired of, the egocentric way of the governance that was prevalent over there. So I think we did talk about corruption, we did talk about the infrastructure lags that were there that we could really fill up, we did talk about the farmers' welfare, we did talk about, the guarantees that we have delivered in the states we are already governing. So I surely believe that, the intent was all across the 5 states, very much the public welfare. It was a people's fight that we put across. Yet, I think, the results on both the polls, it is a bipolar result, and we do, as I said already, we do accept it. However, it must be seen that while the Congress's manifestos were full of agenda, the BJP did copy to quite an extent the guarantees that we were giving, and we really hope that they are able to deliver. I heard the BJP spokesperson a while ago, and he was talking about deliverability. He did acknowledge that they have a lot to deliver, and indeed they do, because they have promised, you see, a gas cylinder at 450. So when the Congress used to promise it, when Congress promises it, they question how are you going to do it. Now let's see, whether they'll be able to deliver it or not. Telangana, we have assumed power, and we shall be returning it to where it truly belongs, with the people of Telangana.
All right. Mahima Singh, thank you very much for joining us on the program. And that also really emphasizes the picture that many of our guests were talking about, that we need to improve the livelihoods of the people, increase household savings. Also, let me return to our guests. Nilesh Shah is also with us. Nilesh Shah, on Friday, the Nifty had closed at an all-time high. How do you see the markets responding to the victory of the BJP, the victory of the Congress in Telangana?
Thank you, Parikshit, for having me over here. Normally, market is smarter than all of us. Who knows, Friday market was discounting these results, which many pollsters and experts could not predict. Friday, there was a GDP data which came much above expectations. So it's not that just pollsters and experts misjudge election results. They also misjudge GDP growth outcome. It will be fair to say that market was discounting continuity of government on Friday, and it will continue to discount the same on Monday. It's likely to open higher, but please remember, in the short term, it is always difficult to predict the market. From here till election, markets would like to see that elections are fought on growth, development, rather than freebies. India is one of the only major economy in the world which has improved its debt to GDP ratio between subprime crisis in 2008 and COVID crisis in 2022. The households of India and India Inc. has deleveraged. Government, thanks to COVID, has leveraged, but it is still maintaining path of fiscal prudence. I think as long as we maintain fiscal discipline, we'll continue to differentiate ourselves vis-a-vis rest of the world, and our economic fundamentals will continue to remain strong thanks to all the work done in the past. So markets will be very, very hopeful and positive as long as we deliver path of fiscal prudence.
Right, that indeed is important. And about the structural reforms that Sanjay Nayar had also spoken about, now that almost 9.5 months of this government are over and you've got just about 4 or 5 months left for the general election, what are some of the structural reforms that you feel the country needs at this juncture? If there are a few things that you would want the government to work on, perhaps maybe announce in the vote on account, at least give out an intention, what would those be? Sanjay Nayar.
Okay, I think that there are no any dramatic structural reforms. We've done a lot already as it pertains to the bankruptcy code, pertains to GST. I think the broader aspect of unlocking land and labor and agri, a very tough trial, wasn't easy. I think we've got to give it one more shot. Financial deregulation over time. I think we're getting a bit overregulated now. I think those are the broad areas where you ultimately unleash the private animal spirits to build the country, i.e. private capex. Today, government capex is carrying us through. We have to make sure that is it lesser bureaucracy, lesser taxation, lesser regulation. I mean, these are all utopians. I'm not saying it's going to happen. But frankly, you have to de-bottleneck the economy, increase the productivity over time, which can happen when you have all these reforms. And it takes time, by the way. It's not going to happen just overnight. And then you have to cut down the dissaver, which is the public sector. And by the way, public sector savings have gone up. So in a way, public sector losses have gone down, which is not a bad sign. But now it's time to do asset monetization for recycling into infrastructure. It's time to do a little bit more privatization, a bit more difficult, I must say. But there's never been a better time, I think, than now to get the local savings rate up, reduce dependence on overseas savings, and make sure that the local economy gets de-bottlenecked such that just one criteria, private capex picks up and people are putting up another plant and yet another plant and expansion and brownfield and greenfield. We got to come back to the 2004, 6, 7 era when there were so many new projects. India has such a dire need of so many things. There's nothing better than Indians manufacturing for India with Indian money. So I think that's where we have to go.
Right. Let me also get in Richard Rosso and Gurmeet once again. Thank you so much for waiting patiently. We're getting a lot of updates from across the country. Rick, coming back to you, you spoke about continuity of good work done in states like Telangana, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. what, according to you, should be the priorities as far as renewable energy goes, climate action goes, reforms go, especially issues related to land acquisition? For many US companies that we often speak to, they speak about issues related to land acquisition still in the country. If you had to list out certain issues with all these 5 states, what would those be, according to you, Rick?
It actually echoes a lot of what Sanjay just said, because a lot of those issues can be dealt with either at the central government or by states. You've seen in the past, Rajasthan in particular took some courageous steps on labor reforms. Of course, have been really the accelerator nationally in India on the adoption of renewable energy. And so land and labor obviously lie still at the top of the list for the state action as well as at the national level. But other issues, the one that I've been tracking for 25 years, is that among the states that went to elections, you still have, for the most part across these states, tremendously weak power grids. And can the states, with these new electoral mandates, step in and make the significant reforms on electricity that voters need? Frankly, the reliable, low-cost provision of electric power is important not just for voters, but also for industry. And that's frankly the best thing that can be done to make sure that it continues to meet its goals on renewable energy. Because if the distribution companies are solvent, if they can pay bills, that makes sure that they've actually got the money to upgrade and modernize. The states that haven't went to labor regulations would be pretty important to be able to do that as well. Sanjay mentioned, for industries to be able to grow and continue to hire workers, for India to grab that spot right now, which has so far been eluding it, of taking on some of that industrial manufacturing investment that's been leaving China. You've actually seen foreign investment in India drop by about 30% in the last year, at a time that you should actually see it climbing. So land, labor, some of the DISCOM reforms would be important. That's my kind of short list, Parikshit, and what I'd like to see these state governments do.
Right. Gurmeet, coming back to the markets once again, Nilesh was pointing out that it's possible for the markets to open higher. Do you see a pre-election rally mode coming on? This is what some brokerages, some experts were talking about.
Difficult to say, but high probability, Parikshit. So, 4 triggers as per me. See, FIs have sold $25 billion in 21 and first half of 22. That hasn't come back. I made that point of their ownership being 16.6%, which is almost as low as 2008. I think 2008, they were like 15.5%. Second, we are not building in any efficiency gains in India. So right now, only India is seeing capital accumulation. But that inclusion in the global bond index, I don't think so. It's pretty underrated right now, hasn't been discussed much. The efficiency gains which will come due to manufacturing, the China +1 playing out in EMS, in auto, and so many other sectors where government has given PLIs. Look at our earning growth for first half of 2020, this year. It's almost 30%, including financials. I'm qualifying that. Fourthly, so my sense is that market did not expect a 3-0 kind of word. And I think so I will put a high probability for pre-election rally. But valuations, as Nilesh sir also made that point, have run up, especially in small and mid cap. Small and mid cap, the trailing P is 25 times. Forward is about 22 times. Nifty trades at about 17.5 times. So you got to be careful in terms of playing this and not to just get too excited by it. So have a more balanced approach. You don't have to do everything tomorrow morning first thing. But I agree with you. I think structurally speaking, I think we are in a very, very sweet spot. And whether or not too much pre-election rally, I think India should do that.
Right. Nilesh Shah, one quick question to you finally before we wrap the show. We also have a take from Piyush Goyal, which will be playing out. But one big trend, the theme that you pick up from these state elections, what would that be?
I think people are voting for development and growth. Religion, caste, freebies, they are not being bought by the voters.
Right. So you're saying people are voting for development. Caste freebies are not being bought by the voters anymore. Thank you very much to all our guests, Nilesh Shah, Gurmeet, Sanjay Nayar, Rick Rosso for joining us. That's all the time we have on this special broadcast. We leave you with what Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal had to say at the India Business Leaders Awards yesterday.
मध्य प्रदेश और राजस्थान में आपको क्या लगता है?
दोनों जीत रहे हैं।
दोनों जीत रहे हैं।
Both we are winning very comfortably. मध्य प्रदेश और राजस्थान में स्पष्ट रूप से भारतीय जनता पार्टी की विजय होने वाली।
और छत्तीसगढ़?
छत्तीसगढ़ का ट्रेडिशनली जितने हमने चुनाव देखे हैं, they've always been a percent here or there. We've experienced over many elections, 1 or 2%, and the elections in Chhattisgarh changes. The difference this time is Bastar region has been very good for the BJP, which was traditionally a weak link in our electoral victories. So looking at the feedback we got in Bastar, we may land up with a good win there also.